Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jake Ellenbogen. Is that how you pronounce it?
It is. You got it right. None of my teachers in school, whether it be college or high school, really ever got it right. So props to you, man.
I was doing a little bit of my research on that, and I did give you a super
Hey,
chat on that Lakers one.
I know. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. But where can the audience find you and tell them about yourself?
Yeah, you can find me at JK Bogan on Twitter. I feel like that's become like the go-to platform, so I always start with that. But you could also find my YouTube, literally Jake Ellenbogen, all caps. You will find me on YouTube. You could probably just look up Jake Rams or Jake Ellenbogen Rams, and you'll probably find me. It's interesting how I've like connected to that key phrase. I'm not complaining. But it was funny early on. I did like a Carson Wentz video on how I think, people are wrong about him. And I think he could really emerge, and, this before the injury, but he could really emerge in his second opportunity with, Frank Reich in Indy. And all of a sudden people are, researching, they're putting in Colts on YouTube, and my face is coming up. And I'm like, what is happening here? I'm not complaining again, but it's funny how that works. So yeah, you can find Jake Ellenbogen YouTube. Most of you are probably not Rams fans, but if you are, you can go over to Downtown Rams. You can follow them on Twitter. You can also go to downtownrams.com for all of our content. And yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing. I have an AJ show. It's called The AJ Show. I do with my cousin. It's on hiatus until the season starts in September. So we'll be back with that. It's a full-on NFL show every Sunday. So be sure to check that out as well.
Oh, that's interesting, man. I guess in a way, your boy said it was a little disrespect on the logo, but hey, let's discuss
I like the
about
logo, by the way.
Oh, you do, even though you're a Rams fan.
Yeah, no, I like the logo you got behind me, the old school one. I mean, I know now it's considered old school, but I definitely am a fan of that. What's up? How we doing?
And we're doing good. So yeah, so Corey Davis and Jake, man. You know what's interesting that I seen you get into an interview with Pale Time and quite a few other Rams YouTubers, and they were just suggesting me to go hit you up. And even though you're a Rams fan, I'll give you props there. But I like the Lakers, so we can agree on that part. So
absolutely,
yeah, and let's get to that debate about the Rams. Like, what do you expect from your team in general, like expectation wise? But like what do you think gonna happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think right now you're looking at, one of the top 3 teams in the NFC. I think they are the NFC West favorites. I mean, you could talk about Seattle winning the NFC West last year, but I think they're the worst team this year coming in. I like the 49ers as number 2 in that division, and I like the Cardinals as number 3. The reason I have the Rams, well, let's look at the facts here. The Seahawks beat the Rams once. The Rams beat them once. The Seahawks, ended up winning the division. They went into the wild card round and lost to a 9-figured quarterback after knocking out John Wolford. And the Rams are a lot better, in my opinion, than last year. So what I would say here, first and foremost, this Rams team had a shot at the Super Bowl last year with Jared Goff, who wasn't even fully healthy. Now you had Matthew Stafford. Sure, you lost John Johnson. Sure, you lost Troy Hill. There are going to be losses. You lost Austin Blythe, but this team, for the most part, is very similar to last year. They were able to shock me and retain Leonard Floyd, which was huge. It's also another year for guys like Jordan Fuller and Justin Hollins, and just you really name it. All these guys are just getting another year of experience moving forward, another year of, a preseason and off season, things along that nature. The Rams went out and they got Deshaun Jackson, though, and I was not super high on the move, mainly because the guy can't really stay healthy. But if he stays healthy, man, this offense has something that they've never had. And I would say they haven't had it since the greatest show on turf. And that is a true deep threat that can change the course of a game on a dime. And furthermore, it's the gift that keeps on giving, because if you want to stop the Rams, from going deep down the field, it's a pick your poison approach with Matthew Stafford. He's going to throw that deep ball. It's not like Goff, who really wanted to stick toward the sticks, keep it within 10 yards, didn't really want to test defenses deep down the field, got really uncomfortable last year, and you saw that. with Stafford, there's not a throw on the field he's scared to make. So that makes it incredibly difficult for defenses to account for that. And then, so say you want to go out and you want to stop the big, the deep ball, right? Well, now all of a sudden you're using a lighter box up front, and it's going to make it easier for anybody to run the football. And I know there's people like, well, Cam Akers got hurt, the Rams are done. No, because there's a guy by the name of Darrell Henderson who's going to be a top 12 running back in fantasy and has a chance, I think, a ceiling to be top 6 this year if he gets the carries. They have Xavier Jones. A lot of these guys, they've never gotten NFL, playing time or what have you, but Xavier Jones has great contact balance coming, out of SMU. UDFA was on the roster all last year, didn't get a preseason. Now he's going to get a preseason. They have Jake Funk, who's really doing a nice job in camp, out of Maryland, 7th-round pick. They have Raymond Calais, a guy that can do a little bit of everything, and Otis Anderson Jr. That's enough when you already have a very talented running back in Darrell Henderson. And we didn't really talk about the offensive line, which is arguably top 10. And the other guys on the wide receiver group, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, and then not to mention the tight ends, Tyler Higbee and Jacob Harris and Johnny Munt. This offense, and this is the thing, the defense is going to take a step back. They're not going to stay number one. It's not, I don't think it's going to happen. If it does, no one is beating the Rams. But in my opinion, I think they take a step back, which makes sense because they're going to have a new defensive coordinator. At worst, I think they're going to be a top 10 defense. But when you factor in the offense and how, abysmal they were at times last year, all they really have to be is average for a top 10 defense to make the playoffs. But when you're talking about a Super Bowl contender, and that is the Rams, then you have to think about two things. One, the offense. How well can the offense perform? I think they're going to be the number one offense in the league. I think they have everything now. Sean McVay has no excuses, and Sean McVay never wanted to make excuses. He was far from that. But on top of that, they're going to have a defense that has, the two cornerstone guys, pretty much anybody that you could ask for. You'd probably pick Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey to start any defense. Maybe your guy, Fred Warner, who I had the chance to see at the Senior Bowl. He's a phenomenal talent, the best linebacker in football, bar none. But those are the guys that I would say, to start a defense. And the Rams have two of them. So in my opinion, you look at those two guys, they make it a lot easier on a guy like Raheem Morris, who's only had 2 defensive coordinator stints going back to Kansas State. And of course, his interim defensive coordinator position, or his interim head coach position, defense coordinator position with the Atlanta Falcons. So at the end of the day, this is a very, very tough Rams team to beat. Stafford's only going to make them better. I think, quite frankly, they could have won a Super Bowl last year with Jared Goff had Aaron Donald been healthy. But that's the scary thing, is that they could have done all that with Goff, and now the handcuffs are completely off this offense, and Matthew Stafford's going to let it fly.
Yeah, the thing with Stafford is he is an upgrade over Jared Goff, the most accurate passer I've seen, even when he was playing with the Detroit Lions. I can really see where you're coming from. And I know a lot of my own fan base would say, why do you pick the Rams to easily win this NFC West? Is because they're more of a complete team. Yes, we have owned the Rams for the last couple of years, but they're just getting better with Sean McVay. Sean McVay just knows what it takes to be very aggressive. He has that desire, and down the road, we'll probably be in the same bumps like you guys are, but we're just kind of going through a lot of these injury bugs and all this, and Shanahan's process is taking a while, it takes time. I know at some point it's going to be one of the best rivalries again, because it used to be one of the best rivalries at all times, no offense to the Seattle Seahawks, but Niners and Rams it goes down as one of the best NFC West rivalries. You can go back from playoffs, you can go back from matchups since the 1950s. It's kind of been one of the best rivalries besides the Bears and Packers, if you agree on that part.
Oh, I do agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, so expectation-wise, I wouldn't doubt it. If we can stay healthy, I can see us getting second place in that division. But as far as the talent-wise, I mean, the Rams, sure, we may have you guys' number, but maybe this is a time where you guys might get your payback, and I don't want to get overhype on you guys. I mean, you guys seem like the team that could give us problems too. Now, of course, the NFC West is a dogfight, but what the most intriguing part of what you said before we came to the stream? You told me something very interesting. You should tell the audience. You told me that you interviewed one of the best tight ends in that draft class.
Oh, he's the best tight end in football, and when it's all said and done, I won't be surprised if he's the best tight end to ever play the game. And that's George Kittle. I had an opportunity to interview him during the pre-draft process. I didn't even have a podcast. I was going around saying I had a podcast because I thought I was going to have one, and it just never materialized. So I ended up just putting these audio clips together, eventually re-releasing them. But I interviewed George Kittle and a few other guys. David Jones, who ended up winning a Super Bowl with the New England Patriots, from Richmond, and George Kittle is just the biggest one that I interviewed during that process, and he was just so great. I mean, just talking with him, not only that, he was so humble and really appreciated. I had done the film work, and I just absolutely loved him. I wanted the Rams to grab him, and was heartbroken when they took Gerald Everett over him. And I like Gerald Everett, but there were people sitting there telling me Evan Ingram is way better than George Kittle, and I'm like, you're just going by the 40 time, man. Which, by the way, George Kittle he ran like a 4.52. That's incredible for his size. So, I think the thing that really caught my eye with George Kittle was when he was going up 1v1 on that one play against North Dakota State. And he just absolutely baptized. It was, I want to say it was a defensive lineman. And I saw that, and I was just like, he Michael Owered him. He took him like completely out of the play. And then I started to see these highlight plays where I'm watching the tape and this guy is laying out, making a diving one-hand catch. And I'm like, why is this guy? He has 20 targets on the season. And this is the thing that will never make sense to me, my guy. I don't understand how the 49ers watched the film and was like, George Kittle, draft him absolutely in the 5th round, but drafted CJ Beathard in the 3rd, who is honestly, if you ask anybody why George Kittle fell, it's because CJ Beathard held him back all throughout college. That's what he was doing. He was underthrowing every single pass to Kittle, and so it made him have to make some crazy circus one-handed catch. That's not normal. Tight end shouldn't ever be overthrown like that. And the guy's running a 4.52. So obviously this guy has the speed. So I will never for the life of me understand why the 49ers drafted CJ Beathard to begin with, let alone in the 3rd round and before Kittle. That will never make sense to me.
Yeah, I never understood why we drafted him, but it seemed like Shanahan had a crush on this guy. He just he tried to move up. Yeah, he moved up that pick, but man, yeah, I just never understood that part too. But now that one of the guys that's one of the fan base of my team, he's asking you what are the weaknesses of the Rams currently.
Great question. Right now, I would say there are 2. I would say one that I would put a heavy emphasis on, cornerback 3, nickel corner. Who's going to play that spot? David Long's a 2019 3rd-round pick out of Michigan who doesn't really impress me. We can see in preseason if he takes the next step, he's going to have a huge opportunity to prove his worth. They have Robert Rochelle coming off a torn wrist, so torn ligament in his wrist, so he got wrist surgery. So really, they're very thin there, and they're going to end up starting probably Dante Dion and David Long in the preseason, which is going to be a huge bunch of reps for them. Big time. They're going to have to step up. You have UDFA Kareem Orr, who's bounced around a little bit in this league, has been in this league for about a few years, was with the Titans formerly. You also have the guy that they got from UAB, the undrafted rookie free agent, Bronte Harris, who's probably going to have an opportunity. Maybe they even throw some safeties in there, give them an opportunity. But, the fact of the matter is this. I think nickel is where they are the weakest in right now. The other spot I would say, and this is kind of being picky, is the outside linebacker position next to Leonard Floyd. I think Floyd has that lockdown. Floyd has a chance to be a Pro Bowl talent. I think Floyd's great. But the problem is next to him, there's a question mark. Justin Hollins, to me, is who I would start. He's got great length for the position. In that scheme, they want more of a 6'5" guy with a big wingspan, 250 over, a guy that's 6'2" and doesn't have that crazy wingspan. And that's Obanat Okoronkwo, who a lot of people think is going to start. For the length and for what Hollins does in coverage, I think Hollins is the favorite there. They also drafted a 3rd-round pick last year in Terrell Lewis out of Alabama, who's just had a myriad of injuries. So that's really his biggest issue. He was rocking 2, not 1, 2 knee braces against the Cowboys. Looks, it doesn't look ideal, right? I mean, it just looks ridiculous. So if he can stay healthy in a limited role, he could really produce, but that's all about staying healthy. With, same thing with Obadiah Okoronkwo. He has to stay healthy. To me, Justin Hollins is the clear starter moving forward. I think he's going to give you the most consistency, but that would be the weak link after the nickel because there's not a great starter there. You could say linebackers, but I would just say they have a bunch of depth of guys that are better than the national media would give them credit for. First off, Troy Reeder played good football last year, got better each week. And on top of that, in coverage, his biggest issue, he has started to really correct that in his game. Micah Kaiser was showing you that he can actually blitz and, rush the passer off the edge against the Cowboys in their joint practice. So that's, interesting there. Traven Howard, a former 7th-round pick in 2017 at TCU, has, that former safety background, really has that new age linebacker sideline to sideline athleticism that you do see with Fred Warner. So they have him. They have Ernest Jones, a 3rd-round pick who they got this year. So there's a lot of guys there. The guy that I'm most curious about, we talked about Iowa tight end George Kittle. Let's bring up Iowa safety Jake Gervais, who honestly would be the most athletic linebacker if he makes this transfer because he has an RAS score that is higher than any of the linebackers, whether it be Warner, whether it be Wagner, whether it be Deion Jones, any of them, Devin White, Devin Bush. He has a higher RAS score than any of them. So if he can make that transition, the Rams have an, ultra athletic linebacker in Jake Gervais. That would be a guy that I'm definitely looking in on. But to answer your question, the two weaknesses, I would say the nickel cornerback spot and then the other outside linebacker spot. And that to me is being picky.
Okay, so does the loss of Samson Ebicom impact that role that you guys had at him playing Sam, or was he kind of replaceable at that spot?
Replacement level player, somebody, you had high hopes for, had a really nice athletic profile, liked him coming out of the draft. They traded a few picks to move up and get him in the 4th round in 2017. Played on the same team as Cooper Kupp, so they had a lot of time scouting Eastern Washington. They liked him, has a great motor, but the problem is he cannot shed blocks. He struggles, and he can't really stick his face in the fan. He gets too caught up on blocks. He doesn't have much of a pass rush plan. He's really all athleticism. I've said for a while I would have moved him to inside linebacker where you could actually maybe showcase that athleticism. I know he has a hard time getting off blocks as an edge guy, but maybe it would be a little bit easier as an inside linebacker, having more freedom to move around the field. But to me, I definitely think Ebukam is far from being a loss for the Rams. A lot of Rams fans were including me, were clamoring for other guys to start. I thought Hollins played better than him, Okoronkwo in limited time, and then Terrell Lewis in limited time. So he was the guy where, you see every now and then a team just constantly starts, cough, cough. The Kansas City Chiefs with Daniel Sorensen. You're like, why are they starting this guy? That was Ebukam with the Rams last year. Sorry.
Okay, but since you brought up this guy Oruku, I remember him coming out of Oklahoma. I wanted this guy so bad because he had this pass rush motor. He was a little undersized. He just had some good bursts, but I guess like you said, he's been injury prone. But I mean, as far as like weakness, man, you kind of like showed the part where you were talking about how the Rams line isn't as bad as people think it is. I mean, do you think this season with Matthew Stafford, it's going to make a huge difference than what happened last year with Goff? You think it's going to? Okay, so which is one of the sleeper players on offense that we need to watch out for?
Oh man, I guess it depends on who you talk to because there's people are catching on to Darrell Henderson, some and some are not. So depending on who you are, Darrell Henderson, if you're sleeping on him, you're not doing it right. But I would say a sleeper player on the offense that isn't being talked about at all is Johnny Munt, because I think Johnny Munt is likely finding himself as the number 2 tight end. Johnny Munt is the guy that's going to be out there. He's the go-to blocker, and man, he is a hell of a blocker. For just some background info, he's a former UDFA out of Oregon. He tore his ACL twice. Before then, he was probably looking at being a third, fourth round pick. But tearing your ACL twice obviously hurts, and he lost that athleticism that made him such a great pass catcher early on. So then he loses that athleticism. He's not quite the pass catcher he initially was. So what ends up happening with Johnny Munt is he adapts, because it's an adapt or die league. So basically what he did is he got better as a blocker, and to the point of being the go-to blocking tight end for the Rams. And then we saw a little bit last year against the Bears that this guy can catch, and he could still make plays after the catch. He doesn't have the elite athleticism that looked like he had at Oregon, but man, he can still make plays. So I think he's an intriguing one, especially in the red zone. He might be a secret weapon there. Jacob Harris, absolutely. The rookie 4th round pick is definitely a guy that you're going to have to watch. I just don't know how much playing time he's going to get with Higbee and Munt. But if somebody gets hurt, man, Jacob Harris has a chance to absolutely shred defenses.
Okay, so you're talking about this blocking tight end Munt, and then there's this Jacob Harris. I'm like, Pale was talking about him too, and quite a few other Rams makers were saying, "Oh yeah, this Jacob Harris is really good. He's athletically fast and freakish or something." So
yeah.
I mean, there's like I looked at his name in the highlight, and they had that hype with Megatron 2.0 or something like that. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on with this guy, but
that was my video.
Oh yeah, I see. I've been watching you. I see.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
I saw that. Yeah, Pale suggested me, and I checked it out, and I said, okay, I guess the hype is real with this kid, so I gotta check it out a little bit. But yeah, so okay, as far as like a sleeper player on defense, man, who's that guy for the Rams? Like, who's gonna be the guy that breaks out that nobody's gonna talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of people are talking about Terrell Burgess and what he can bring to the table. I think Burgess is a guy that had a chance to really break out last year, was finding his stride, was getting more play, and then he tore his Achilles. Or not his Achilles. He broke his ankle, I believe, against the Bears on prime time. In that game, he had already had like 4 or 5 tackles, really nice solo tackles early on in the game. So he was on his way to having a really big game. And just flying all over the field. You could see the confidence, no longer a special teamer, really was just finding his stride. So it's really upsetting to see that for him. But now he's back, and he's a guy I've interviewed 3 times, so I'm a big fan of him. Can definitely sign off on his character. He's one of the good guys, one of the guys you would want to root for, regardless if he's on your team or not. But, I think he has a chance to really blow up. You talk about what he can do in coverage. He's got great ball skills, instincts, things along that nature, but he's a really sound tackler and somebody that has the versatility to play strong, free, even the nickel corner position. Maybe he ends up, just sliding into the nickel. And, if the Rams really struggle in that regard, then maybe they use him there. He could play the boundary. He could even play, maybe a pseudo linebacker spot, although I prefer Taylor Rapp more operating around the line of scrimmage, and having, Terrell Burgess with that 4.4 speed and clearly the most athletic of the bunch in the back end, except for maybe Nick Scott, the 4th safety, who you should also keep in mind. I would say, you want to keep him back there to make those plays that other guys probably just are, physically unable to do.
Okay. Terrell Lewis or Burgess?
Yeah, Terrell Burgess. They got him 3rd round pick last year from Utah.
Oh, okay. So he's like, okay, so he's that guy on the radar. Okay, so he might be one of those guys that breaks out. Maybe he might just fill that role that Ebicom wasn't able to do, So, okay, so I guess this guy's asking you a question, this Rolls Royce. I guess he's talking about how Nick Mullins has been able to beat you guys. I mean, I know that sounds kind of like a little jab in a way,
yeah, I mean, I couldn't really tell you. I mean, I thought the Rams looked really good. They couldn't, the 49ers had a hard time stopping Darrell Henderson, if you remember. He had about 84 yards. They stopped running the ball. Goff gave it right back to them. I think what it really came down to is, the 49ers have a really nice game plan. First off, not Sean McVay, but Kyle Shanahan knows how to beat that defense. So that's going to be something the Rams are going to have to adapt to. The thing that people don't understand with Kyle Shanahan is, no, he's not going to go out and get a DK Metcalf. He's not going to go out and get a 6'4" juggernaut wide receiver. That is not his game. What he wants to do is he wants to operate with yards after the catch guys, yak monsters, so to speak. So you have a guy like Brandon Ayuk who's built like a running back. You have a guy like Deebo Samuel who's built like a running back. Those guys are almost just as valuable as the DK Metcalfs, because while DK is somebody that can, jump over people and catch a 50-yard bomb. And by the way, before I say anything, I love DK Metcalf. This is not a knock on him. It's more of, praise for what Kyle Shanahan wants to do with his team. He wants to get guys that can, make plays after the catch. And honestly, those plays have more opportunities to break out and get to the next level and get into the end zone instead of the plays where, you're throwing 50 yards, but the guy's right on you. You're going to get tackled right away, or you have to break a tackle. We saw it last year, with the Rams, Deebo Samuel, how important it was for him to get that first down and end the game. I think it was a third down and they did an end around that iced the game against the Rams. But early on in that game, when they thought they had, I don't know why they thought it, but they thought they had Deebo down, and he spun out and he went for 60 yards. And I believe he scored. That's the type of stuff I'm talking about. And the Rams, to a degree, have been doing this, just as long, with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, who, by the way, regardless whether, people realize it or not, there are two guys that are ahead in yards after the catch that are ahead of Devontae Adams, who is in third. So the other two guys, Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, so they're doing the same thing. It's a very similar offense on both sides, McVay and Shanahan, and they both borrow stuff from each other all the time. But what I don't understand is why teams aren't doing more of this. It makes it very easy on your quarterbacks. Now, what I will say is that there's a reason for 100% sure that Shanahan and McVay are doing it, especially with the quarterbacks they have. Jimmy Garoppolo is limited as a quarterback. He is. And so is Jared Goff. And so because of that, because their limitations, they're able to kind of cover it up by having guys that can make plays after the catch. And, it's not as simple as making a catch and running. I don't think, there's a lot of people that think it's as simple as that. It's really not. There's a lot that goes into it. And I watched a huge video on it, kind of breaking it down. What I was really impressed with guys that, are really good, yak guys, what they do well is that basically they set themselves up. They put themselves in position when they're actually receiving the ball. They put themselves in position to already run up the field with no wasted motion. A great example of that is ankle flexion. When the way they can flex their ankle, and keep in mind, it is a dangerous play because if you flex it the wrong way, you can tear an Achilles or break an ankle or something along those lines. But these guys are just masters with it, where it just doesn't happen very often. So they have great ankle flexion. They're able to get, a really nice, contorting of their body. So when they catch the ball, they're already facing upfield. And they have a head of steam. It is hard to tackle somebody that is running straight at you. And that's the thing with Woods and Kupp. Now, Woods looks smaller on TV, but people forget that Woods is still 6 foot, around 200 pounds, could still knock you over. Kupp is big. Kupp's 6'2", So, I mean, that's the thing. When you have those guys playing the way they are, and then you have Deebo and you have Brandon Ayuk, and then not to mention, let's not forget, I was talking about him off air, Jalen Hurts. If he ends up, being as good as I think he can be, he's a former running back at 6'3", was originally with Tennessee, transferred to Baylor, became a wide receiver. Just because he became a wide receiver doesn't mean he isn't a running back when he gets the ball in his hands. So he's going to be really good for this offense. And I'll end this end this whole thought process by saying, I don't care what anyone says. Trey Lance should start week 1.
Okay, that's a good opinion on your mind. I mean, okay, so Corey Davis is asking you a question, hypothetically. Let's just say if.
Do I think the GM and the coach will get fired? No, because the coach is Sean McVay, and he hasn't had a losing season since joining an abysmal team, to be honest with you. Love the Rams, but they were called the So-Sar Rams, the same old sorry you-know-what Rams. There's a reason for that. I think, this organization being in LA, they can't afford to, make any sort of risks like that. And and, make any, dumb firings like that. McVay will be a Ram as long as he wants to coach. So he'd be fine. I think Snead would be fine, to be honest with you, because even if Stafford doesn't pan out, explain to me what panning out would be. Like, are you talking he struggles? Is he worse than Goff? Like, what is panning out? Because, like, for me, not panning out would be like not getting to a Super Bowl with him would be a problem, I do think. But I do think that they are one of the favorites for the Super Bowl, and I'm not really too worried because I've already seen what this team has done with Jared Goff. And as much as I appreciate Goff and what he did, I also, I'm gonna call it like it is. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Jared Goff was fairly limited towards the end of his Rams career. 2017-18, he looked like all the makings of a franchise quarterback. 2019, 2020, he was far from that. Total far cry. And, him and Jimmy Garoppolo are pretty much the same quarterback. So that's what I would say in that regard.
Okay, I get what you're saying. See, that's the thing that some people don't understand. Even if it's in that situation, Sean McVay hasn't had a losing season. And the GM, he's been very aggressive. And even with the draft capitals, even though you're not going to get a first round pick for quite a while, but you guys have been okay with that. It's like your boy Ram Showcase says, first round picks are for suckers. I don't know if you saw that video. I kind of uploaded it on the round table.
So didn't. So there's an interesting twist to not having a first round pick that I don't think a lot of people realize. You get about $4 or $5 million in cap space that you don't have to spend on that the first round pick. So there is an actual, strategy to it. And keep in mind, $4 to $5, million a year isn't a ton, but it could be the difference between, being the favorite to sign a Justin Houston or a Melvin Ingram and not. And so, in that case, you save that money, you're able to trade that first rounder away to get somebody that can play right away instead of waiting. And then on top of it, you can sign a guy like Ingram or Justin Houston, somebody that can contribute right away. Sometimes that's the best course of action. And, I'm a huge draft fan, so it is weird, but I'm okay with not picking in the first round. I think, the bust rate is super high, and I think they've done such a nice job of finding talent throughout the later rounds. Guys like Jordan Fuller in the 6th round, finding a starter in the 6th round at pick 199, that never happens. I mean, Tom Brady and, but for real though, it's impressive. And when you can do that as consistently as they can, they don't need a first round pick. I know it sounds weird. It's hard for people to believe, but it's not like they're just opting to relinquish their first round pick for nothing. They've went out and they've been able to, acquire players like, Jalen Ramsey and Brandon Cooks and, now Matthew Stafford. And I will say I'd rather have those guys over having a first round pick that may or may not work out.
Man, it seems to me the Rams are just pulling more of the LA Lakers move, man, going with all these players over these young players. It's like, hey, LeBron's doing this, but then you guys go for a guy like Stafford, Jalen Ramsey. At one point, you guys made that move for Marcus Peters, and then you guys got rid of him. It's like, man, anytime I see these offseason moves by the Rams, they just tend to make these aggressive, crazy moves. I'm like, how the heck do they do that? It's like I'm shaking my own head and say, how the heck you guys do that? It's like, how many cap space and draft capital you guys got? It's like you guys are really like reloaded or something beyond the scenes. I mean, it's kind of weird.
They manipulate the cap. So what I mean by that is they'll use bonus money, they'll front load, they'll back load deals, they'll make things work. It's like a puzzle piece. So that is how they do it. Now, I've been a little bit of a critic in regards to how they've handled contracts such as Cooks, Gurley, Goff. Like, I do think that they're notorious for paying guys too early. And I think they're notorious for giving up on guys too early. Brandon Cooks, I'll tell you right now, was only traded because Jared Goff couldn't hit him anymore down the field. So, everyone acts like this guy was traded because of his concussions. It was not the case. And people were saying he's going to have to retire. He's not going to retire. Brandon Cooks is one of the most, consistent wide receivers in the game. He gets so much disrespect, but he's gone to four straight teams, and he's gone for 1,000 yards with 4 different quarterbacks. So, I don't know when we're going to start giving Brandon Cooks his credit, but maybe this year when he's the only guy that Deshaun Watson potentially is throwing to. We'll see if Watson plays, but Cooks is special, man. He does a little bit of everything very well, and he got better as a blocker with the Rams, which, by the way, if you want to play in Sean McVay's offense, you got to be able to block. I love that.
Yeah, I did like Brandon Cooks in the draft. It's like I never understood why we passed on him on draft day, and then the Saints got him, and then he went to the Patriots, and then he went to you guys. Now he's going to the Texans. It's like the only question with Brandon Cooks is like his durability. Like he would always get concussions. It's like, damn, how many times is he going to play? But the thing with the Texans is Deshaun Watson. That's a question mark. It depends on who they're going to have at quarterback, either Tyrod Taylor or an unproven quarterback on their roster. I mean, that's the weird part is that Deshaun Watson drama, all this this allegation, all this I don't want to be here in Houston type of talk. It's kind of like, I don't know. It should have been worth Hard Knocks instead of the Cowboys. Come on, Cowboys ain't even worth watching, man. But they're a train wreck waiting to happen.
Yeah. The Cowboys are definitely interesting because they have Dak Prescott, who by all accounts was on pace to have over 6,000 yards last year and gets another game to do that. But at the same time, their defense is, we don't know, because I think they have some talent there. Obviously, you go out, you get Micah Parsons and Jabril Cox in the draft, and Trayvon Diggs in year 2 is going to be fun to watch. But at the same time, it's Dan Quinn. We've seen Dan Quinn, kill it, obviously with Seattle and early on with the Falcons, but we also saw Dan Quinn completely lose it with the Falcons to the point of getting fired. And all of a sudden, now Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris came in and changed that team to the point where the Falcons were in like every single game the rest of the way last year once they fired Dan Quinn. So the Cowboys are an interesting team because it's like, how good can they be if their defense is just okay? And that's the thing. I think their defense is going to have to make a significant, impression moving forward. They're going to have to get to the quarterback early on. They're not going to be able to have, an off year from Jalen Smith again. They're just not going to be able to. So that is what I would say about that. Their secondary is still a question mark to me. Letting go of Byron Jones has not gone well, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the thing about certain things. It seems to me you have that good analyst when it comes to different football teams too. I've been doing a lot of the research too. But what the most intriguing matchup for the Rams that I might look forward to? I'm thinking that maybe you guys want to avenge your devastating loss to the Baltimore Ravens, man. That was one of those craziest games. But I think that would be an intriguing game if you guys can get your revenge on them.
It's funny you say that. I only have the Rams losing 2 games this year, one to the Ravens and one to the Niners.
Oh, okay. So prediction wise, you see the Rams going 15-2 or something?
I do. I think this is the year Stafford wins MVP. And it's not crazy. I mean, this is somebody that's thrown over 5,000 yards in this league. This is somebody that has thrown 40 touchdowns in a season. This is somebody that has shown you really in a bad environment, having to win. The year they went 9-7 to go to the playoffs, 8 of those 9 wins came from Stafford leading them back to come back from behind and win in the fourth quarter. Stafford has had to carry his team, and he's had to drag them to the playoffs. And now he's with the Rams, 37-0. That's Sean McVay when leading at halftime for the Rams as coach. Stafford's not used to this. So if Stafford doesn't have to play from behind, besides the fact we can talk about how ridiculous the narrative is that Stafford throws too many interceptions, when we could go back and look, he threw 17, around 19. What was it in 2013 is the most he had? I think it was 19. And since, the worst he's had is a 13 interception season going back to 2015. So the idea that he's always turning the ball over is a load of nonsense. But I think now what people will see is that Stafford is going to play with a lead. Stafford's going to play with a good defense, and Stafford's going to play somewhere where he's comfortable and doesn't feel like he's constantly getting pounded into the ground, and he's going to have a running game. I mean, the last playoff game, I know there were injuries, but this should never happen. The last playoff game, the Seattle Seahawks had the ball for 39 minutes against the Lions. That was the last time Stafford was in the playoffs. He went to Quest Field, and they got beaten by Seattle pretty badly. The reason for that, Seattle had the ball 39 minutes during the game. Another reason is because they couldn't run the ball. Do you know why? Because Zach Zenner was their starting running back. It does not matter who the Rams start at running back. Everyone on the Rams roster right now, everyone on the 49ers roster, everyone on the Seahawks roster, and everyone on the Cardinals roster is a better running back than Zach Zenner. So that's my point, is that, Stafford, you got to look at the context here. Stafford won. You go back to his first playoff game. And this is the thing I find funny, is that I've heard, like First Take and stuff, well, Stafford can't win in the playoffs. It's like, you guys are acting like Stafford is like horrible in the playoffs. You're acting like he's Mr. Choke Artist. Stafford's first ever playoff game at the young age of he was 24, 25 years old. He dropped 4 touchdowns on the Saints. The only problem is the defense didn't even show up, so they gave up 45. It's not Stafford's fault. They lost 45-28. I think 28 points should be enough to win you a playoff game. And then the second game against, the Cowboys, they play well. And then at the end, they're winning, and they get, that PI call that ends up backfiring against the Lions, really screws them over. And then the Cowboys got the advantage at the end. They ended up winning that game. And then I told you about Seattle. He's running the ball with Zach Zenner. Come on now. I think he ran 10 carries for like 17 yards. That's not going to help you at all. You can't establish the run. You can't establish play action. Play action is your last ditch effort to kind of make something happen in the passing attack if there's nothing there. The hope is you can establish the run, opens up the play action attack, and then things open up over the field. If you can't do that, there is no fail safe. You're just going to have to keep gunslinging and hope something works. And that's honestly a lot of the time what we saw with Stafford and his interceptions. It was because his team was down by 10, 17, 24 points. And he's like, well, we don't have anything to lose and we have everything to gain if I score a touchdown here. So I'm just going to heave it. And it's funny, the irony here, man, is that people will call him Stat Padford, but it's quite the opposite, because he didn't care. He's the guy. He's like shoot or shoot. Stat padders will not shoot a half court shot because they're scared of their their field goal percentage dropping. Like, that's like saying, well, he's a stat patter. Okay, then why is Stafford bombing 50-yard throws down the field in super, super low percentage opportunity rates? I mean, we're talking about, those deep bombs at the end of the game that are almost surely going to be picked off. And he's still throwing that because at the end of the day, Stafford doesn't care about stats. He cares about winning. He cares about trying to lead his team. It's why over the last however many years, he's got 38 come from behind wins. I mean, that's ridiculous. He's one of the best deep ball quarterbacks over the last decade. And now he goes to a team that has all the weapons. And on top of that, he's got a defense, a coach, an offensive-minded coach. And, he's got this team that, right now this organization is all about winning right now. They're not trying to go through a rebuild, where the Lions, and keep this in mind, the Lions messed up because I think the best time that they had was when they had Caldwell. Jim Caldwell gets a lot of flack, but here's the thing. Caldwell had stability. When they had him, things were going well. Now, they had a down year, and then they really knee-jerk reaction, got rid of him and then got Patricia. I've talked to a few people that actually, one is still with the Lions, and, a few others are not. And they said that, it's not that Matt Patricia is a bad guy, but it's that the culture there just didn't work. And Stafford was really having to carry everyone around him because of it. So it was a bad, area. I think that he had stability with Caldwell. Caldwell's only said amazing things about Stafford. Stafford's only said amazing things about Caldwell. I think the best opportunity they had was with Caldwell, and then they sent him, packing, and it was like, that was it. Like, Stafford was just a guy on a team with not really a collective unit. And ironically, now they have the best offensive line. If Stafford was on the Lions right now, this would be his career best offensive line with Penei Sewell, Frank Ragnow, Taylor Decker. I mean, it's crazy how, now all of a sudden this Lions offensive line is like going to be, would be the best of his career, and he's not there anymore.
Yeah, because the line was like the worst when it came down to Detroit. But now let's get to this next question. To be completely honest, since Rolls Royce is asking this, I think the NFC West will give Tampa Bay more problems. But if it's up to Jake on this question, I think it's pretty obvious what you're going to say.
I'm sorry, what was that? Ask Jake what team in the NFL is going to be the biggest threat to the Buccaneers. It's the Rams or the Packers. I mean, the Rams beat them last year with Jared Goff in Tampa. They're pretty much the same roster. Now the Rams have Stafford. It's another year. So, I mean, I know it's not like it's smart to bet against Tom Brady, but what if he just were to fall off a cliff this year? Like, do you know how screwed that team would be? Like, think about it. Like, really, if Tom Brady is average this year, they're not winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, because he brings a lot of this all-star talent with him, like in Tampa Bay. So if he's average, Tampa Bay would have to do so much on defense. So it's
exactly. And they can. They absolutely can, and they could be one of the top NFC teams even with an average Brady. But if he were to really fall off, like out of the blue, they would be absolutely screwed. And this is probably, it kind of goes hand in hand. I want to give them credit for building, a roster, building a roster like that and building a culture where everybody wants to stay. You got to give them credit for that. Like the Buccaneers, like totally give him credit for that. I have not been a fan of Bruce Arians. He's annoyed me. He's probably annoyed you on the sidelines, but let's call it like it is. The dude absolutely built a team the right way. He put a collective group together and he built it the right way. But if Brady were to fall off, you're not benching Brady. So no matter how bad Brady plays, they're not benching him. And when you have, Stafford and you have Rodgers, who's not leaving Green Bay, he's back for another year, then it's really, I think it's a 3-dog race there. But if the 49ers listen to me and they play Trey Lance, who is nowhere near as much of a project as everybody wants, you to believe. Trey Lance called his own plays at the line of scrimmage last year and beyond. He only played one game last year, of course, which was that really stupid showcase game that I don't think anybody should have been playing. But regardless, Trey Lance called his own plays at the line of scrimmage. He made his own protection adjustments, things along that nature. He's brilliant. He's a total leader. He played for the Alabama of the FCS. North Dakota State, are we still going to talk about how they're D2? We're gonna mislead everybody and say they're D2. I think that's so unprofessional when people say we played at a D2 school. No, we went through this with Carson Wentz. Wentz,
Josh Allen too.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Carson Wentz is only not succeeding right now because of the injuries. If he actually stays healthy, you will see he will play good football. It's not like he can't play in the NFL. This guy was up for MVP in 2017. So I guess my big thing there is that I just think it's this lazy narrative. Like, what makes you think that Trey Lance is that much lower than Zach Wilson? Because to me, Zach Wilson, all of a sudden, he just came out of nowhere for BYU. He had one great season, and then his other seasons are not very good. So it's like, what does that tell you? I don't think you can learn too much or too little off of one season. But what I will tell you is that Lance's film, he's the best quarterback in this draft. He's got the highest ceiling. He's got a fantastic athletic profile. He's going to be a pain in the butt to defend. And while the Rams have experienced defending guys like Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray, Trey Lance isn't like those guys. He's their athleticism in a bigger bodied quarterback. He's more like Cam Newton. So that's going to be really hard to defend that. Plus, when you look at his deep ball, his accuracy, and what he can do, I'm a Rams fan telling you this because I'm unbiased. I'm not going to sit here and say just because I'm a Rams fan, I want Trey Lance to struggle. I actually don't. I like Trey Lance a ton. He was my number one quarterback. I know, people will say, well, you're a fan of Trey Lance. It's like, yeah, but how did I become a fan of Trey Lance? I saw the tape. I watched. I did my research, and I'll tell you right now, Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't offer anything to this offense that we haven't already seen, right? And the defenses already know how to beat Jimmy Garoppolo. I know they haven't done it a lot. Jimmy Garoppolo has a great win percentage, but how much is that Garoppolo And how much is that Kyle Shanahan and company? How much is that, Robert Saleh's defense, So that's what I would say in that hand is that now you add a guy like Trey Lance and he changes the complexion of your offense. On top of that, at the very worst, you can just run the whole bailout method with Jimmy G. Keep it very simple for Trey Lance and let it gradually progress. But if you're going to be that limited with Jimmy Garoppolo and have him dumping it off to Ayuk and Deebo Samuel anyway, and then you have those running backs, why wouldn't you just give Trey Lance the opportunity? I think putting him in, the sooner the better. And plus, keep this in mind, last year's quarterbacks did not have a preseason. This year, the quarterbacks do. That's something I haven't heard many people mention, but it's a huge thing there for a guy like Lance, for a guy like Fields, because they can win a job in preseason. And it was funny, as I kept hearing how there's no quarterback competition. They keep saying there's no quarterback competition. Jimmy G's our starter. Jimmy G's our starter until he's not. Because I can tell you right now, there was no quarterback competition. It went from Lance wasn't getting first team reps. And now all of a sudden Lance is marveling, at the stadium. I just saw, the deep balls that he was throwing. Pretty crazy because it's not a shock to me. He can make all the throws. They were brilliant for trading up and getting him. They would not have been brilliant for trading up and getting Mac Jones. This is coming from somebody that likes Alabama. I don't have anything against Mac Jones, but he's not on the tier of Trey Lance. So they need to go with Trey Lance. And if they do, they have that defense that's there. Very impressive defense. Jason Verrett, they were able to retain. They have Jaquiski Tart, who I really like. Jimmy Ward is very talented, as well as Dante Johnson. They added Ambry Thomas in the third round out of Michigan. They have Quan Williams still. They have a lot of pieces there. Obviously, we could talk about Nick Bosa, the go-to guys, right? Like, Nick Bosa, Javon Kinlaw, guys like that. But the thing is, they have a lot of talent around. I'm a big fan of DeMeco Ryans, by the way. He's a very good young defensive mind. He was playing not long ago in the NFL, it seems like. But, man, that was the type of guy that you wanted to take over for Saleh. So I love seeing that. I love when guys get promoted from within. I'm really excited to see how he does with his defense. And I'm interested with this offense because I'll tell you, if they use Lance and say, you have such a powerful backfield. People don't realize Raheem Mostert's one of the fastest running backs in football, and we've already seen what he can do when he stays healthy. You had Wayne Gallman, who just had his best year of his career, had a resurgent year, had an opportunity to spell Saquon Barkley, and I thought he did a damn good job of it. But they got my number 3 running back in the draft, and Trey Sermon, who, by the way, was the reason Ohio State was able to continue on and have that success and end up beating Clemson to go to the national title game. Keep in mind, Justin Fields, as great as he was, Trey Sermon went beast mode at the end of the season. He is a great running back, and I always say within the first 25 yards of his run, he's like prime Todd Gurley. He doesn't have the long speed, so to speak, so he's not going to house an 80-yard run, but he doesn't have to. That's what you have Mostert there for. They also got Elijah Mitchell, who I really like as well. Mitchell, they have Mitchell, they have Sermon, they have Gallman, they have Mostert. I think they still even have Jermichael Hasty. I know they won't have Jeffrey Wilson, unfortunately. He's also a talent. So they have a lot of talent here. I'm not worried about the Niners. The thing the Niners have to do is stay healthy and play Trey Lance, and they have a chance to not only make the playoffs, but they have a chance to be that fourth team that we don't seem to be talking about here, because it's the Rams, it's the Bucks, and it's the Packers, and there's a significant drop-off. But if the Niners play Lance over Garoppolo, going for the guy that they drafted instead of playing it safe, in turn, they could end up being the NFC title winners. I mean, I'm not going to lie here. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I think they are on a good track. And getting Lance was huge. They are going to be a problem for years. But why wait? Why not start it now and see how much of a problem? You could always go to Jimmy G if he ends up being that bad, but he's not going to be that bad. I think Lance, he's at least going to be a top 20 quarterback this year if they start him.
Yeah, good valid point on that. Yeah, you definitely know what you're talking about. Like, man, like, dude, especially with Trey Lance, the defense won't know much about him because he had limited playing time in college and he is very intelligent. But I know that some people want us to play the rookie, and I get it. But preseason will be the interesting part, and the backups will get opportunities. But man, I appreciate picking up your knowledge and all the stuff, man. And maybe in the near future we can definitely collaborate again. Because I mean, you're definitely you're spot on, dude. You just got a lot of good stuff I'm picking in, bro. It's like I'm even watching your videos and checking what you got to say, dude. It's like I guess you could say I'm kind of like your fan.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. I'm a big fan of what you're doing. I like the collaboration, and I'll just say this: I'm a huge NFL fan. So while I love my Rams supporters, till I die, I have the best fan base. I say it all the time. We got a Discord. Just the community is great, and I'm really appreciative of that. But I also, and I think they understand, I'm not just a Rams guy. I've been doing Rams only for pretty much the whole time because I started at Downtown Rams, wrote for Rams Wire. It's been Rams, but this is why, like, having, a show like the AJ show, it allows me to really showcase what I've really been holding back. I've always, and this YouTube channel is huge for me as well because I always wanted to be able to showcase it. I used to know every single offensive line in the NFL and be able to tell you how well, each of them played, whether they were good run blockers or good pass, good in pass pro, or, what they struggled with. And obviously I'm not quite that level anymore because there's so many things I have to focus on now. And it's like adulting and whatnot. But I do know a lot about the NFL. And I do think, there are times where it's like, I have to kind of remind people I'm not just like a Rams fan. I could probably, tell you a lot about your own team that maybe even you don't know. I'm just, so I try my best to keep up with the league. This is the league I enjoy following. The NBA, if you ask me to name everybody in the league, man, I couldn't tell you. People are always changing jerseys. Baseball used to be like that, no longer like that. So really the NFL has become my bread and butter where, I mean, I ranked all, I projected the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends in fantasy, all their stats and everything. So, I'm pretty well informed. And, a big thing is that, and I 100% recommend this if you can get Game Pass and just watch every game. And I know that sounds crazy, but I do it every year. You can watch a condensed version, about 40 minutes. You're only going to catch one or two, maybe 3 or 4 games every Sunday, that whole setting, right? Because people are watching Red Zone and what have you. So I like being able to go back and see who truly is succeeding, because what we need to do a better job of is realizing that a lot of these big names, they hold weight, but these big names aren't big names anymore, right? They don't play up to that caliber. So don't make yourself look silly and say, well, he's great. He's got a 90 and, Madden 2018. It's 2021 and the guy isn't playing that. You know what I mean? So I can't stress it enough. If you can watch, watch the games, watch them over. I watch a lot of all 22. You're able to get a different picture of, everything going on. And that's really, how I was able to see how Kyle Shanahan kind of uses his offense. And I see them when they play the Rams. And then if I miss their games and stuff, I go back and watch all the games at least once. And I really, was impressed with what he was able to do. Plus I saw, the way Kyle Shanahan coached the Senior Bowl, because I was at the Senior Bowl. I had a chance to meet him. I like the way he ran his drills and, the plays they ran in the Senior Bowl practice. And, it's little things you pick up on. But yeah, man, I mean, I appreciate, the praise. It does mean a lot, but I can't stress enough, watch the games, man. We're getting all this entertainment. We get 17 weeks now. You just Game Pass is like $100. Just watch, like I always say, just watch the condensed version, and that way you can get an idea, of who's playing, who's playing well, who's not playing well, who's overrated, who's underrated. Make your own conclusions based on that.
Okay, man. Definitely, man. Like, guess you're getting a follower now, man. I guess he's liking your credibility and all that. So,
appreciate that, man.
Yeah, we'll get to the conclusion. Dude, it's kind of a great time to collaborate, man. I mean, good suggestion. I'll probably have to decide on the Game Pass type of stuff and do exactly what you're doing. I mean, you're growing your channel incredibly good, dude. Like, I get that most people want to do their own team vid makers, but sometimes you want to mix it up. You know, you want to do all 32 teams to get more people interested. So I'm kind of picking up a little bit. You know, I want to do more than just be a Niner content creator. I want to do a lot of like NFC West and all 32 teams in general. But yeah, dude. So if you want to put your final say, we'll probably collaborate in the near future. Just let me know.
Yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
I'll give you your final saying on the stream, and then we can just end it from here.
Yeah, so thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to me talk about all sorts of stuff. It's been a blast hanging out with you guys, and especially just this channel, and I appreciate CG. Dude has a great channel. Be sure to subscribe if you're not already. But yeah, I'm just I always appreciate coming on these shows. And if you ever want to learn a little bit about the Rams, know a little bit about the team you're going up against, what have you, I'm going to have all sorts of, breakdowns, more unbiased breakdowns during the year. So you can check that out on my channel. Also, shameless plug here. Love you too, Scott. You're the man. A shameless plug here, but I also do MCU horror movie content as well on my channel. My channel is not like anyone else's. Like, I do Rams content 75% of the time, but I also cover the NFL. I'm doing some Laker content. I'm doing horror movie content. I'm doing MCU content, and I do gaming streams. So if you're interested in all that, be sure to check that stuff out. And I hope to see you in one of my streams sometime. Thank you so much, guys, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Anytime if you want to put me on your stream, I'll jump in. We'll debate the matchup too. So yeah, man, it's a great stream overall, man. I'm gonna have to post that stream a little later, and I'll tag you in and then give you a shout out.
I appreciate it, man.
All right, man. Have a good one, bro. Like everybody else, I thank every one of y'all. So Jake Ellenbogen was he did a great breakdown. I can respect what he's saying. Realistically, 15-2, I don't know about that, but hey, never know. If Stafford can be at his best and you guys have the best supporting cast around, then it's anybody's guess. But we shall see.
We shall see.
All right, man, take it easy. I'm going to end the stream.
You too, man. Later, guys.
All right, guys. Stream's about to end. All right, guys. Good stream. Check out Jake Ellenbogen. He's more than just a football content creator of the Rams. He does NBA. He does scary movie horrors or whatever you guys are interested. But it was an honor just to collaborate with this guy. So have a good day. CG Ruthless Sports is out, and go Niners.